Welcome to the Money Maven Project podcast. If you're here to learn how to obtain freedom over your time and money through real estate investing, you're in the right place. Create the life you want by living with intention and becoming a maven in mindset, money, and real estate. Now, here's your host, Justin Monk.
Super excited for today's episode. We have Ashley Wilson on the show today, and I'm super excited for her message and kind of talked about her experience so far. Ashley is the co-founder of Badash Investments and House It Look LLC, best-selling author of The Only Woman in the Room, a book of knowledge and inspiration from 20 women in real estate, or women real estate investors, and an active member of Real Estate Investor community. You'll have to tell us more about that. She has over 10 years of real estate experience and has been involved in over $60 million in transactions within both single-family and multifamily investments. That's pretty awesome. Ashley co-founded Badash Investments LLC with her husband, Kyle. Ashley leads asset and construction management on her multifamily investments and has provided operational consulting for several other large multifamily owners throughout the country. We're going to learn a lot today. Additionally, Ashley and her father, Tom, also have a very successful high-end flipping business in Pennsylvania, House It Look. I guess I'm saying that right, which handles several $1 million in transactions annually. When Ashley is not working on her business, she enjoys spending time with her family, including her husband and their 2 daughters. And additionally, Ashley enjoys competing with her horse. So we may have to end on that note before we end the show. But wow, what a bio! What a level of experience. So you've been doing this for 10 years. Tell us kind of where it started and how you got to where you are today.
A little over 10 years ago, my husband and I were both looking for ways in which we could diversify our retirement strategy. So we landed on real estate. We weren't firm believers in the stock market, as most people are when they stumble upon real estate. And we first started with house hacking and short-term rentals. So we house hacked 9 months of the year, the property, and then for 3 months of the year, we would short-term rent the property out because it was in a vacation area, a tourist area. So we ended up dipping our toes, so to speak, in real estate, and we loved it. Shortly thereafter, we did a few other deals. And then in 2014, I left my career, and I was in clinical research and development for GlaxoSmithKline for vaccine development specifically at the time. So I left that career to focus on other things. And in turn, my father and I co-founded and partnered together on House It Look. So I was living in Europe actually at the time, Europe and Russia, and my dad was in Philadelphia. So he served as boots on the ground, and I did everything that you could possibly do remotely. We started that business, and about 3 years ago, we started our multifamily business.
That's awesome. So where did you first start to see real estate? What did that bug start? I mean, you weren't sold on the idea of putting your money in the stock market. Where did you learn about real estate? Where was your first kind of experience with that?
So really about 12 years ago is when we found Bigger Pockets. So We've been listening to Bigger Pockets for almost since its creation, and active on their website and within the community. So really the start of it, all the credit goes to my husband, because we were in the stock market, but we just weren't firm believers in the stock market. And we thought there must be a better way. So we looked at alternative investment strategies and kept coming back to real estate because it just fit our appetite for investing the best. And of course, you land on Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that is a mindset shift. And once you read that book, you're kind of never going back the other way. So,
right.
It's really, it's interesting how so many people have different paths to get into real estate, but a lot of the same building blocks are in play, and that's definitely the case for us.
Yeah. So what does life look for you right now? What are you currently focused on?
So we have a few different businesses. We have our flipping business, which we are still doing large scale renovations. So we have a different strategy with flipping than most people do. Most people flip volume. We flip larger yield. So we're going
Yeah.
after higher price point homes, but lower volume. So it has a greater yield. And then on the multifamily side, we are actively looking for another property. We just purchased a 150 unit, but we're still looking for another property right now, and expanding that arm of our portfolio. So we have a few other things we're pursuing, but they aren't fully executed yet. But
Yeah.
those are our two focuses.
I like that. And so tell us more about why you have chosen the high yield path rather than high volume. Because I don't see, I mean, any flipper that I see on Instagram or wherever, it always seems like it's just many houses as possible, as fast as possible. Why did you land on the high yield, less volume route?
So with flipping, it's interesting because there is, as you mentioned, there's two different paths, and most people choose the path where it's high volume. High volume is typically an easier. They both have pros and cons. So high volume is typically easier entry point. So
Yeah.
normally people are purchasing properties 200,000 max, maybe
Yeah.
300,000,
Yeah.
and they do high volume that way because they have not a lot of capital at risk. They do quicker renovations. They don't do full gut rehabs like we're doing. So in terms of market shifts, their exposure is less than our exposure.
Yeah.
And then their yield is less. So they have to focus on volume because in order to do it full time and to carry a crew, to offset the overhead costs, you have to, the flip side is, pun intended, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
is you have to carry a large crew. What we realized very early on, since my dad is a general contractor and he's had his own business for over 40 years and he has his own built-in connections, he ended doing renovation on very, very expensive homes. And
Yeah.
the quality of renovations we do it's not typical for a flip. I know people use the term flipping, but I would like to honestly, I think of our company more as a home renovation company than a home flipping company.
Yeah.
But because our cost to build or cost to rehab is so much higher per square foot than most other people, we found it to be more advantageous to go into a higher price point space for a couple of reasons. One, on the acquisition side, it's easier. Two, we have the access to capital, so it's easier on that front. And three, we have the capacity and knowledge to tackle full gut renovations and higher price point homes and have higher quality contractors tackling them instead of just focusing solely on time. So in terms of a business model, it's higher risk, higher reward, like anything.
Yep.
So, the downside, of course, is you're exposed to those market shifts and your capital's at risk. And, on a million price point home, you're not doing $5,000 price drops. You're doing 25,000 plus.
Yeah.
On a $300,000 home, it's a $5,000 price drop. It's a different game.
Yeah. So would you recommend that if somebody wanted to get into flipping homes, would you recommend that they start with the smaller stuff, the more high volume model and move into that higher price point just so they kind of had the systems down? Or could somebody, if they had the capital, I guess, could somebody jump right into that high yield model?
I think you can jump into a high yield model if you have the right infrastructure in place. If you have the right partnership. For me, I had the right partner. My dad was already experienced to that. So it was a no-brainer for us to do that. I also think too, when you first get into flipping, typically people don't leave their W-2 and just go head first into flipping. And I think if you do you could do a lower price point home and try a harder rehab instead of a cosmetic rehab, because higher price point homes, if they're cosmetic rehabs, they're purchased by retail buyers. They're not purchased by investors. So, in the lower price point homes, when we bid on those, we're competing against investors. On the houses
Yeah.
that we compete against today, we compete against retail buyers. They're looking to buy a house and then customize it. Which we even shifted our company. Like 2 houses we're doing right now are for clients.
Mm.
So instead of, try to beat the competition, we just shifted our company to be more creative. Now we have no exposure on our capital. We have no holding costs. We have no exposure on market shifts. And we renovate houses for people, full gut renovations that they needed someone that they could trust that could do soup to nuts.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people who do that. So now we have an advantage there. So it's really just about reading your situation, reading what advantages you come to the table with and leveraging them.
Yeah. And I guess if you're kind of in that high yield, if you're using the high yield model, there's probably not a lot of markets. I guess what I'm saying is a lot of investors will kind of look elsewhere if their market is expensive, where maybe they can go to the high yield model and purchase some of those higher end properties and stay in their local market. Does that make sense? Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your market. Every market's different, and playing to the strengths of your market is always a good strategy. You never want to try to make something happen and the numbers not make sense. At the end of the day, all that matters is the numbers. I mean, even my personal residence, I don't care if my husband said tomorrow we're going to sell our house. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's just a house to me. It's always just a house. So
Yeah.
As long as the numbers make sense, that's how you should always run your business.
Yeah. I like that. And so tell us about the transition. So at some point in this journey, you decided to look at multifamily and make a transition, or at least start a business in that side. When did that kind of happen, and how did that come about?
We always knew we wanted to get into multifamily. It's just a natural step to progress after flipping. You're either going to do more flipping, which we could have done too. And we started to build out the flipping company. We were doing that, but at a certain point you get to a bandwidth and, you look for other strategies. And also too, from a very, strategic point of view, flipping doesn't have the tax benefits, that you have in apartments.
Yeah.
And also too, it's not a good hedge against inflation, multiple ways to get paid. I mean, all the benefits of multifamily that there is, you don't have that on flipping. So we wanted to diversify within the same real estate class, right? So we were living in Europe and Russia at the time, and we said, okay, once we get back to the States, we'll do multifamily because it's a very relationship-based business. It's not as easy to leverage technology in the business. It's not meaning you can't. It just means that there is an unspoken rule that you go to your markets, you meet face-to-face with brokers, you shake hands and kiss babies. Like, that's just the way multifamily is. It's a very traditional real estate transaction, which is ironic because the actual transaction aspect of it is the wild, wild west. There's no contracts. It's a handshakes, I guess is more traditional pre-formalization of business or real estate transactions.
Yeah.
But we did that once we came back. So once we came back and moved back to the States full time, we decided, all right, we're going to take this plunge into multifamily. And there was a group that was looking for someone to lead construction management. And it was about a $2 million rehab project. No one on their team had construction management experience. So they asked if I would come on and lead it. Mm-hmm. And that's how we first got started.
Nice. That is so you kind of had that door because of your construction experience in the past. Not everybody has that. So if somebody's trying to make the transition from flipping to multifamily, what would be your tips or recommendations to make that transition?
Multifamily is a team sport. There's so many different roles that are involved in multifamily, from raising capital to negotiating with brokers, both on the real estate transaction side and also through the lending side on your capital stack with debt. There are people who are running asset management, construction management, investor relations. I mean, there's so many different components of the multifamily. If you're going to go after large multifamily and smaller multifamily, I think you can tackle it more with a fewer stable of people. But with large multifamily, you need a lot of infrastructure in place to take down these properties, even as the net worth and liquidity for origination of loans. That's another role you can play. But even as far as being an accountant or, maybe you're a lawyer and you can help do the contract side, or maybe you're really good at social media and you can do all of the company's branding. There's so many components that are able to be, come together and take down these properties that I just would always recommend to leverage your strength and lead with your strength, as opposed to leading with, well, I don't know anything about real estate. Can I learn everything from you?
Yeah.
Instead of looking how you can take from someone, see how you can give. And you'll be surprised how many people want to work with people who give.
Yeah. No, I like that. And, so tell us, I mean, we've only touched on a portion of what you've accomplished, and we'll continue going here, but what do you attribute this success to? I mean, you've been going hard for 10 years, done very, very well in the flipping business, doing well in the multifamily. What do you attribute that to?
Honestly, I work my ass off. I work so hard, and people will be smarter than me. I can't control that. I know my weaknesses. I think I have I know that I know myself very well. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I am not someone who, for example, my husband is brilliant smart, and he is smart in a different way than I am smart. I am smart in a very strategic way. I can put together concepts. I can come up with ideas. I can find efficiencies on how to operate a business, and I can put all these puzzle pieces in place and find the most efficient, most effective way to run a business.
Yeah.
He is brilliant smart in the sense that he can listen to a podcast, he can read a book, he can watch a movie, and he can literally memorize all the data and spit out facts and recount things that I recount big concepts. I don't recount details.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think knowing that that's a weakness of mine, and knowing what my strength is, I also too work incredibly hard. I stay up late. I get up early. I sacrifice weekends. I sacrifice time with friends. I sacrifice vacation time. I will never, ever be outworked. I work incredibly hard, and it's something I can control. So I think that, and controlling my mind. I'm very good at controlling my mind. I can meditate. I've been hypnotized before. I can really allow myself to control the way I think. I don't get down on myself. There are problems that I face, but there's always a way to figure something out. And I just have a very strong mindset, and I work my ass off.
I love that answer. How do you avoid getting, I don't even want to say it, but like burnt out? Like, because I don't believe, I mean, Grant Cardone says we're not candles, so you can't burn out. But I know there's a lot of people out there that think that if they work too hard, they're going to burn out. How do you avoid any of that kind of a feeling, or just getting to where you're wore out, I guess?
I do still have balance in my life. So for example, it's the discipline of getting up early. So if I want to do, have a family day, I'll get up early and get the work that I need done before everyone else gets up. And then I spend the entire day with my family.
Yeah.
So it's not like I feel like I have to be checking my phone or, whatever. Knowing when to really turn it off and allow yourself to decompress for a second. So today, for example, I was doing 3 podcasts. I had multiple meetings today. I had a lot of work to do. I got up early. I worked all day, and then up until right before this podcast for an hour, I just decompressed. I
Yeah.
just shut everything down. And for an hour, I decompressed because I knew I would have this podcast next. And then I have some more things I need to get done tonight before going to bed. So that's one way. And I work out, and I am very cognizant of the things that I eat. I'm a vegan. So I believe that instead of your food expunging energy to process food, I believe food gives you energy. So I'm a huge believer in making sure that I'm eating the right types of food, and really paying attention to my body too. And I think that gives me energy as well, that, can put things in overdrive. So people are like, how do you not drink coffee? How do you not drink caffeine? And I think there's other ways you can fuel your mind and body, and positive thinking, surrounding yourself with really good people, exercising are all really good ways to support that kind of mindset.
Yeah, I love everything that you're saying. That's so spot on. Finding it's People always talk about work-life balance, but I just think it's more of a harmony. It's more of a flow, like you just said. You can work your butt off all day, and then you have an hour to slow down and reset. And 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 the other thing is people, because there's a I think there's a definition we can talk about here. When you say how hard you work, it's not like you're working 24/7. I'm feeling that when you are at work, you are getting more accomplished than anybody else too. Like, you're efficient, you're focused, and I think that's where the value can really come in. Like, I'm the same way. I might go on a family vacation, but I'm going to get up at 4:30 or 5, and I'm going to have 2 hours of corralling certain things and taking care of certain things before my kids even wake up. And then I feel like I can take the day. So, but in that 2 hours, I'm focused and I'm getting as much done as possible. And some people think that working hard is just nonstop around the clock working, but I think there's efficiency that you can get. There's working hard and more efficient in the time that you give work. Am I making any sense? You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. It's kind of like that old feeling that, if you have a W-2 and you go in 9 to 5 every single day, and all you're doing is really paper pushing and checking emails, and you get done like maybe 100 emails a day. And then let's say, for example, you have a half day, and you come in for a half day, you had a dentist appointment that morning, and you still bang out 100 emails, but in a condensed time in 4 hours. 1 to 5, you've done 100 emails because you have a shorter time span to get the same amount accomplished. And for some reason, you just are able to click through those emails really well, really efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's just taking that on a grander scale. I think when people get complacent in their job that they're doing and the lifestyle that they're living, that maybe it's time to look elsewhere and try to figure out something that really invigorates you and motivates you to want to do more and want to work efficiently all the time. And fortunate for me, I have found that through real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I usually save this question for the end, but I think it fits here. What is your why? Like, what is it that's motivating you at this point? I mean, you've accomplished a ton and you've been very successful. What keeps getting you out of bed and driving you?
When I was really young, my parents worked their butts off, and that's probably why I have such a good work ethic. And I had, 2 role models, and it was also, I just an innate, was born wanting to work hard and try hard at everything I did.
Yeah.
So, because of that, they positioned themselves, even though I didn't grow up in a very affluent situation. I mean, we were definitely struggling, for sure. But they always supported us, my brother and myself. So they always came to our events, they came to our plays, they came to our sports. And to me, that had a greater impact on me than anything else. So anytime I set, what I wanted to do in life, it always was the underlying reason that I set that goal was because I knew that that led to my ultimate goal, which was the freedom of being able to, at any given time, clear my schedule and spend time with my family, whether that meant that my child was sick, whether it meant, because I always knew I wanted children, or they had an event, that I could clear my schedule and I could control my own schedule. So my dad was self-employed, so he had the flexibility, and my mom was fortunate enough to work with a company that respected that and gave her a lot of freedom to do that. So today, I had a question earlier today that said, is there like an ultimate goal for you? Like, is there enough? And I think it's because I don't have like a pinnacle goal that achieves that. I just always want to keep maintaining it. I push myself harder and harder to ensure that I'm always in a place that I can clear my schedule to spend time with my kids and my husband.
I love that. As you go around and meet with other investors, and I'm sure you get questions all the time, how you're doing it, and you probably explain things a little bit and give people their first, their next steps of how to get into real estate. What are the common, I guess, misconceptions or mindsets that that hold people back as you meet people and see, and here's how you do it, here's how I've done it? What are they saying to you of why they can't, or maybe the obstacles that they come up with?
There are groupings of people where they are on their own journey, and based off of where they are on their own journey, there are patterns of what their hurdles are. So people who have yet to get started, they can all have these little, whatever, I don't have access to capital, I don't know construction, those are all like, I guess, details as to why they aren't getting started. But the mindset is that there is the fear of changing whatever trajectory they're currently on. I see that as the underlying issue is the fear of change, the fear of the unknown. Whereas if you look at people who have already gone into real estate, are more experienced, their issue is not the same. So I do one-on-one coaching, and typically the people that come in through my program, because honestly, I have to accept the person into the program, because if I'm spending my time on them, it has to be someone that I know for sure is going to take action, right?
You bet. Yeah.
So the people who I typically coach are people who, not necessarily everyone has started, but I know that that's not the issue. That's not the concern. So the other situation that I find is that real estate, with the power of real estate, is you can be successful in any aspect of real estate: wholesaling, mobile home parks, self-storage, notes. I mean, literally, you name it, you can be successful at it. So the problem with that is the person who is naturally going to gravitate towards real estate is an entrepreneur, someone who's able to take action. And if anything, their problem is that they don't know which action to take on because they see all of these amazing opportunities.
Yeah.
So they don't stay the course. And it's not an analysis paralysis type of thing, because they're ready and willing to take action. It's just, which action do I take first on, and which action matches my life? And what I have found through my coaching program, and this isn't a promotion of my coaching program, by the way, because I only take a couple people. I have a long wait list. So this is not, if you're hearing this and you think like I have a 60-person wait list. So this is not what this is, but I'm just saying that from my experience of coaching all these people, every single person that I have coached, every single one is doing something that is completely against the grade of who they naturally are and what they want out of life. Every single person that I've coached.
Okay.
So Brandon Turner in his journal quoted someone, and I don't know who it is, but they said something to the effect of, you spend your entire life climbing up a ladder only to get to the top and realize it was leaning against the wrong wall.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly what is happening to these people. So typically people that I see who have taken action have seen, have been successful at it. It doesn't mean they aren't successful, but there's just this underlying feeling that did not satisfy whatever crave they had. So whether that is they did flipping and they were looking for more continual income streams, or if they are scaling at such a small snail pace and really they're poised better to tackle bigger projects so they don't feel challenged enough. I mean, there's so many different things that it could potentially be, or they like private lending, or, I mean, there's just so many aspects of real estate, and people are honestly, they need support in picking the right path.
Yeah. I like that. I don't know that I've ever had anybody mention that. But that's profound. I like that. I just had a good question and now I'm missing it here. So, okay, what other thoughts there? Or let's go into this question. So what do you think, now that we've kind of nailed down some of the common mindsets that hold people back, what are the things that you see in successful people that separate them from those that don't succeed?
Successful people, or how I define successful people, are people that are very clear on what they want. It's not that you don't know who they are, what they stand for. They're determined, they're organized, they're helpful, they're giving of their information. It's not, ironically, it's not a wealth thing. I've never described someone as being successful because they had like a Bugatti or something, it's never anything to do with a monetary. I think I see success more as, to me, happiness is, I think, attributed, to success, financial freedom, being a good person. That's a huge success. So just the attributes I find are they're well respected in the community and they're giving of their time. For example, Dave Van Horn, I think, is one of the most giving people that I know. He's an incredible person. And I look at him as a very successful individual. Do I know his net worth? No. Does it matter? No, because to me, he's the definition of success. He's well respected. He does tremendous things for Project Home, which is a local it's a home transitioning center for homeless people in Philadelphia. I mean, he's just an incredible person, and that to me is someone that defines success.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, I have an uncle that's wealthy. He's been very successful, and I've always looked up to him because the nicest car he ever drove was like a Cadillac, like just like a standard Cadillac, and I think the other car was like a GMC Yukon, like SUV, and if you saw him at the grocery store, you wouldn't know that he is like very, very wealthy. And I've always respected that because his happiness came not from the wealth and showing it off and spending it, but I mean, he was the guy that was fishing. He retired like when he was 42 and he was fishing like 3 or 4 days a week. And I was like, how did he do that? And I always saw him being super upbeat and super happy. And I was young. So that's where I really started to see, okay, there's a different way to do it than, work till I'm 65 in a 9-to-5 and retire down the road. I started to see this different pattern. And anyway, he's always been a good example of success and happiness and a good balance of that. And I think that's always stuck with me for sure.
It's funny because there's an old story, and I'm not sure where it originated from, probably like a Chinese proverb type story, but there was a old man who, in a fishing town, would sell, would go out and fish and bring the fish back. And another gentleman came up to him and said, something to the effect of, "Oh, you should sell your fish. You can make a lot of money." And he said, "Well, why would I do that?" "Oh, well, if you make more money, then you can buy more stuff to catch more fish." And he says, "Well, why would I do that?" And the guy's basically, long story short is, well, because eventually then you could spend all your days fishing, which is what he was doing to begin with. So maybe your uncle is the original character of that story.
That's funny. I've heard that story before, and that's a perfect example of it. I love that. And I think I'm glad we're going this direction, because I've been wanting to ask this question, and I didn't know if it was a perfect fit. But how do you? Because I have not been doing this as long as you have. Haven't quite accomplished all that you have, but as I grow and as I grow my business, I'm always worried that I'm always careful to make sure that it doesn't get so big that it starts to consume me, and it doesn't get so big that I can't live the life that I want. How have you protected that and kept because you've grown, you've got multiple businesses and multiple things going on. How have you kept that at bay and made sure there was always that ability, like you said, to take the break that you need to be with your family or whatever it is? How have you done that?
The added benefit with partnering and working with amazing people is not only can they be the experts and you not have to be an expert at multiple things, but also from a bandwidth perspective, you don't have to always address all of the different tasks that are related. So building out your business, I think in multifamily, for example, there are a lot of people who are very greedy with how much money there is in multifamily, and they just want to take it all. And I am more of a mindset that I would rather make less on a deal and work with the right people, and for us to be able to do more deals than have a single deal be like the end all be all, and I need to milk that cow for what it's worth, right? And not partner with people and take on too much, and it's solely reliant on whether or not I work that day. So I think leveraging other people's skill set, really partnering with incredible people, not only builds your knowledge, it comes up with great, you come up with incredible solutions on how to handle complex issues when you come across them, but it also provides you that freedom that you can have balance in your life and you can build out your company more. If I was to, as an entrepreneur, we're all people who in 5th grade got a class project and we wouldn't let anyone else work on it. And we just absorbed all the responsibility. And we're like, "Oh, no, I got this. You guys just show up for presentation day and we'll call it a day." And you just didn't want to give anyone else the responsibility to do anything because you didn't want to be let down. And you have to get over that fear, and you really have to allow people the autonomy to deliver. And as long as you pick the right people, I mean, your world is limitless. You can build, people don't want to build something out because the fear of like, then I got to manage those people.
Yeah.
Well, the mindset shift should be, what if I don't have to manage those people?
Yeah.
What if I pick people that I don't have to manage?
Yeah.
And then you can achieve it.
Yeah. That's perfect, because that exact thought has crossed my mind. I'm like, well, I don't want to get too big because I don't want to have to manage it. I don't want it just to be another job again. I want to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. I want to be the guy moving the chess pieces, not the guy, the chess piece, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that sounds totally stuck up, but you know what I mean?
No, I know.
I want to move the pieces and make the plays and call the plays rather than be in the field working to some degree. And so, but I know that I have been super blessed and I have tons of opportunity, and it's not right for me to not grow and have as big of impact as I can possibly have in this life. So I don't, so I guess I'm always fighting this balance of like, I know that I can do more and I can be bigger and I can have a bigger impact on people, but I'm always like, well, I don't want to get too big. I don't want to have to manage that. So I love how you worded that, because It's more about how can I grow this thing and stay just like you said, the managing the pieces and working with the right partners and people, and you can get. And I think you said the word limitless. It can be limitless if you build it correctly, and still have a huge impact on people and the world at large. So that was a great answer. Thank you.
Absolutely.
What advice do you have for investors, really anybody that's doing business or going into business with a spouse? What rules have you set maybe, or kind of guidelines that you follow to keep this successful?
I think respecting your spouse's genius, whatever that is important, and having clear lines of who's responsible for what, and respecting each other to know that if you weren't married, if you weren't in a relationship with this person, that the way you talk, the way you communicate, the way you exercise certain tasks, you would still have that dynamic, meaning that if I ask my husband, to do something, and he wants to do it a certain way, if I wasn't married to him, if I was just working with him, I wouldn't say anything about it, right?
Yeah.
But as a spouse, you're more informal in your discussions, and that can lead to some challenges if you don't always balance that. It's never perfect because you're obviously in a relationship with a person and things carry over, but there needs to be a balance, just like we talked about earlier on about having a balance with your life. You should have a balance with your spouse. My husband's way better than I am. A lot of people find this crazy, but we kind of are a little bit opposite in the normal gender roles that people play. So my husband is way better at me than at like reminding me, okay, Ashley, we're going out tonight and we're not talking about work. He's much better at that than I am, because I would talk about work all the time. I really just love what we're doing. So if I didn't love what we're doing, trust me, I would not be talking about it. But I really do. So it excites me, but just make sure you find that balance.
Yeah, that's fun. That's cool. That's a great answer. Me and my wife were just we're the opposite, since she's managing the 4 kids and we never talk about real estate or what's going on. We go out to eat and we're like, we have to talk about real estate so I can catch you up on what's going on. Because she's always like, hey, I saw this on your Instagram feed about this new house that we're making an offer on. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. So she likes to hear it from me, not from my Instagram. So yeah, we do it a little bit differently, but we found a way for it to work. And that was a great answer. I appreciate that. So tell us more about the book, The Only Woman in the Room. How did that come about? Where did that idea start? Tell us more about that.
Ironically, it came at Dave Van Horn's event. He's getting a lot of mentions in this podcast. Dave has a conference every year called the Mid-Atlantic Summit, and he had a conference 3 years ago where Andressa Gadelli and Liz Faircloth, the co-founders of the Real Estate Investor community, invited all the women in attendance to have lunch together. And just 2 tables pulled together. I think there were 14 or 16 of us who sat at that table out of 450 people in attendance. It was just overwhelming to me to see that. And while I sat there, I said to myself, I'm going to write a book called The Only Woman in the Room. I told my husband about it on the way home. I didn't realize how it would take shape. I didn't know I would ask 19 other women to co-author. But once I realized that, I started on the DL interviewing women without them realizing what I was doing, to see if they would be willing to be authentic and share their story, and very giving of the knowledge that they've learned along their track in real estate. And I am very grateful that the 19 other women agreed to do this.
Yeah.
So it turned out better than I could ever have imagined. And I'm just super proud of the book and the women in the book.
That's awesome. And tell us more about Invest Her community. How did that start, and what's the goal of that community?
So I actually recently became a partner of the Real Estate Investor community. Once again, it's co-founded by Liz Faircloth and Andressa Gadelli, and they founded it about 3 years ago, initially with a podcast. So they started with a podcast and a meetup group in Philadelphia. Now they have over 30 meetups across the country in Canada. They also, we had a summit this year. We launched a publishing company this year with the release of the book. So they're going to have a whole publishing arm. We are in the process of releasing a membership platform. So you can still join the community for free. There's a tremendous amount of resources for free, but we've never had a paid membership platform. So the paid membership platform is really going to provide more coaching to anyone depending on wherever they are. And we have 3 pillars: mind, body, soul. So it's really about not only real estate related, business related, but also your mindset and self-care type of coaching. And then accountability mixed in with it as well. So what we do is we support women looking to pursue financial freedom through the power of real estate.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that effort. And that's been going. You said 3 years ago was when it was organized?
When it first started, that's correct.
Cool. Awesome. Well, this has been a super powerful conversation. I've enjoyed it a lot. One of the other questions that I really like to ask is, what are you doing to give back? What are some passions or some things that you feel strongly about that you're giving to make a difference, I guess?
On the real estate side, specifically to other real estate investors, every Tuesday night on Bigger Pockets Live and on Instagram, Facebook Live and on Instagram, I cover multifamily at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's free. And I am a huge proponent of Bigger Pockets and how much it's changed my life. So I like to give free content on all about multifamily to anyone who wants to join. You can look through the archives and see all of the past Tuesday nights that I've done. So I've done it since May. And I actually did it previously for them about 3 years ago. And then it got put on hold for all the live contributors. So I'm grateful that they started up again and we're rocking and rolling there.
Yeah.
With respect to the communities in which I manage the apartments, I always set a goal for the property to become the beacon of the community, the greater community. So not just for the residents. So what we do is we partner with the local organizations, shelters, we partner with schools, we do school drives, we do food drives for the homeless. We donate things that we are no longer using. So for example, we are donating some desks from the property we just purchased to Project Home, which is an organization that helps vets. And then we also partner with humane societies and we run pet adoptions on our property, waive pet fees for the residents. So we get pets out of shelters and within the local market. We also support local businesses. So what we do is we go to local businesses, ask what day is their lowest business day, ask if they'll give a special to people on our property that order. And then what we do is try to create business for the local businesses by encouraging our residents to purchase from those local businesses to support local. So that's what I'm doing from within real estate. And then I do things outside of real estate as well, totally unrelated, but I work with different organizations and I raise capital for them.
Yeah, I love that. It's one of my favorite questions because there's so many good examples, like you're included, of how how we can give back and how we can have an impact on the world outside of our real estate ventures. And I love to hear the different ideas and the different examples that are out there. So thank you for doing all that, and thanks for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap this up. Where can people find you and learn more about what you're up to?
You can find me on Instagram at Badash Investor, and you can also find the book, find my company websites at badashinvestor.com.
Perfect. We will make sure that's all in the show notes. Any final things you want to share before we wrap it up?
Just thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much. We will, hopefully we talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thanks for listening to the Money Maven Project podcast. A true Maven shares knowledge with others, so be sure to share this podcast and leave a review. Thanks so much, and until next time, live life with intention.